I would use gender as an excuse for why men don't reach out and prioritize. Though women are so much
Yeah.
better at community, and I think men. This is a much larger topic that I'm researching, but like because I think a lot of boys are stripped of their humanity and feel like they can't feel negative emotions, they can't feel love and softness and all these things, and traditional masculinity growing up kind of fortifies these ideas. If you don't have enough men and people around you that resist this idea of traditional masculinity, so I think men have a much harder time accepting when they need community, or that they don't feel like they don't feel good and that they need to be connected with their friends. And I think that's why, because if you can't identify this need in yourself, you can't go out and try to fix it. You're just going to push that emotion further down in your dungeon until there's a dragon trapped in that dungeon, and you just feed it all of your sadness and emotions, and then one day that dragon destroys everything and everyone around you. So I think it's yes, I do make a lot of concessions, especially now understanding that for my male friends with kids. Like I was home for a month, and one of my best friends, I saw him for 2 hours one afternoon. He just had a brand new baby the month before I got home. And then I saw him one other time for a full afternoon on my birthday, and we had a great time. And like I had to squash my negative feelings, that because I told him, I know you're busy, so you just tell me when you're available and I'll come see you. And I only saw him those 2 times. And I know he wanted to see me. We're still very close, but I had to like think through all of these things, that like he's stressed with kids. He's got two now. And he just doesn't have the mental bandwidth to reach out. So as much as I was hurt not to see him, it was pretty easy for me to run through those filters now, as as a man in his early 40s, to realize that like this is just how life is sometimes, and it is sad.
Yeah.
Because I bet he wishes he reached out more as well. But I've just started. I don't want to let the like hurt pile up that I think a lot of men do. I think I try to give people way more grace period, and realize that men have a hard time organizing stuff, getting together, and so like, especially friends with kids that are men. I think after a certain amount of time, if I realize there's a disconnect on priority of the friendship, then I think maybe I'd be like, okay, well, maybe we've different ways. But like using you as an example, for example, like you've got just so much shit
I'm
on your
here.
plate. Yeah, and I realized there's a few years that when your kids are teenagers, they're not going to want to deal with you at all.
Well, and
And then,
this is the
and
thing.
then we'll have so much time.
That's kind of this is like part of the way that I've thought about parenting is I have a finite period of time. So it's like during this finite period of time, I will always prioritize my kids, because, ultimately there will be a moment where they have no interest in hearing anything that I have to say or in spending any time with me whatsoever. And so that I've kind of got in the back of my head that it's like that, there will be a moment. Well, and there will be a moment where it's time to, create that distance in some way for a period of time. And if you've done your job right, hopefully they come back at some point. But ultimately, if you're doing your job right, you're creating autonomy and you're creating that distance. So that's always in the back of my head. That's like at some point, I will be, glad I made this choice to be with them or to spend time with them or to do this thing, because because at some point that will end.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, it's at the same time, you can't totally neglect all of your relationships and expect them all to be there. So so there's obviously balance that you need to strike in relation to that. But the other thing is that when you are coming home to people every day, I think, and I don't know. I mean, again, I think the theme of this call is I'm no expert, but anthropologically speaking, like men, you spend a lot of time alone or in a situation where if we're not quiet, we may not eat today, or I might get killed by this, wild animal or whatever it is, right? So like men, I think, had to be, alone together a lot, right? You had to be in a situation where it was like, sorry, Arf, we can't talk about our feelings today because we have to focus on killing the saber-toothed tiger. Like, that's priority number one. Our feelings are definitely second to that, right?
Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there'd be a lot more like collaboration as relating to a specific goal, which explains why we do very well in escape rooms together.